Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's finally Friday. So, you know what that means. It's a Free Think Friday. Today is Friday, February 19th, 2021. And I've been waiting for this one. It's been a long week. It's finally the weekend. And that's really mostly all I got as far as intros go. You guys know I always like to welcome any live listeners that are listening to the show currently, as well as any listeners or slash watchers that are watching this later or on any social media platforms. I always want to thank you for your support. I really appreciate everybody that's been going strong with me. This is episode 28, like I said, a Free Think Friday. So for those of you that are new here or that don't know like what I do on a Free Think Friday, I honestly just ramble on and see whatever comes to my head. I do mostly start with like something I saw on Twitter or something that I've just been thinking about, and then I just go. I'm looking for my water bottle. Okay, as long as I got my water bottle, we're good to go. Sorry for that. I am thirsty, and for those of you, like I said, that don't know, this is a morning show, 7:35 a.m. But 7:35 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So just to keep going and start the rambling, the first and foremost, what I want to talk about is two things I saw on Twitter, which are relevant to, I believe, either yesterday's episode or 2 days before, the climate change one. I do so many of these, I don't know which number they are anymore. I know what I talk about during the week, but not like specifically which day it was. I know I talked about history this week, climate change, Little Boosie and Lori Harvey, and there had to be one more, or no, there was three. Is this the fourth episode? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So this is the fourth episode. Then the Free Think Friday. So, like I was saying, to extend on from the climate change episode, it was called Climate Change / Pray for Texas, and I don't know if you guys have seen, but the senator of Texas, Ted Cruz, he went and got up and abandoned his state. It was cold and freezing, and he said, "All right, I'm out, y'all. Like, I don't know what y'all want me to do, but I'm out. I'm not here for this. I'm not built." What do they keep saying? I'm not built for this. So he went to Cancun, Mexico, and Twitter and the rest of the world bullied him to come right back. So it's crazy. Like, that people in power don't understand. Like, this is how the world sees them, and then how they end up acting. They end up acting just like how the world sees them, is what I'm trying to say. Like, we see them as selfish, and I say mostly like people of power. We see them as selfish, only ever going to look out for themselves. When things get rough, they're going to just abandon or leave or whatever, and that's exactly what they end up doing every time. This is not the first instance. Like, during Corona, they said, like, stay inside, wear your mask, don't go anywhere. Then we saw, I think his name is Newsom or something, the California governor. He was doing indoor dining after, like, either the day of or the day after. He literally gave a whole press conference saying this is not the time. Like, you guys gotta stay inside. Then he went and did indoor dining, and I don't think there was any mask or anything like that. Excuse me. And who else did? They said, I think the mayor of Chicago, I think, did something. There was another, like, mayor or governor. She went and got her nails done. She was like, oh, I needed acetone, so I went down there. It was a mistake, whatever. If they... I understand completely, like, they're human too, like, they are. But just like, and this is a whole different conversation, but just like how I believe we need to hold police to a whole nother set of standard. You can't say, well, they're human, so they're allowed to make these mistakes. It's not. You guys need to be set to a whole nother standard. Police differently, because they literally, like, could take people's lives within an instance. But people that have been voted into office or public officials, they also need to be held to a different standard, because you guys are kind of, I don't even know how to word this. It's not that you guys are symbols or anything like that, but you gotta, if you're going to say something, you have to abide by it. It's like how when like Trump and all these other people, they say pay your taxes, do this, do that, and then as soon as they have to do it, they're like, oh nah, I'm not for that. It's not going to happen. That's not cool. That's messed up. So I don't know, like they always act within, like I've said this over and over on the show, everyone always acts with self-preservation. It's literally the only reason humans, like up to this point, have evolved and gotten to where we are, because we've acted within, we have tried to preserve ourselves. We've tried to live. We used to have to go fight against lions and tigers and fend for ourselves and go kill buffalo and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, if we weren't trying to preserve ourselves, we would not be here. So I'm not, I don't judge them for trying to preserve themselves. I get it. His reasoning was, he said his two daughters, they were like, it's freezing, it's cold, like, can we just go somewhere? And he said, I was just trying to be a good dad. I am in a position where I can leave, so I left. Like, they said, look, we don't have school because everything's canceled, everything's frozen, can we just go somewhere? So he said, sure, let's do it. And he said, like, sorry, I was trying to be a good dad. I do think that's a cop-out, but if that's his real reason, I understand. Like, if I was in that situation, I would probably do the same thing. I wouldn't tell my daughters to their face, even like they're freezing cold. I wouldn't say, hey, I know you guys are cold, but my constituents, they're going to judge me if I like leave, whatever. I'd be like, all right, you guys are cold, my wife's cold, I'm cold, like, let's just get out of here. We'll be right back. It's whatever. And then I'd probably do the same thing he did. But to transition off of that, there's this, and this was a great tweet that I saw. There's this movie called Elysium, and I saw it a while ago, but from what I can remember from it, I don't know what was wrong with the Earth. I actually can't remember, but what I do know, what was wrong with the Earth? I think that people were still on the Earth, but it was poor. Like, all the poor people were on the Earth and they were fighting and stuff. And all the very, very rich people were on Elysium, which was hovering like above the Earth or on another planet, or I don't think it was that far away, but it was away from the Earth. It was away from like the scoundrels on the Earth. And on Elysium, they have like these machines where like it can diagnose you and cure you of anything. It's always like perfect weather. It's always like it's an escape. It's literally like an escape. And someone said Elysium wasn't a movie, it was a documentary. And they said anytime, like, wait until the climate crisis really, really happens, there's going to be somewhere for the elite to go. And they just stay there. And it's Free Think Friday. I'll use the computer, whatever. You guys know, if this is your first time on here, I normally don't like to use the computer during the show, but it's a Free Think Friday. This is kind of like my free day. I do a lot of research for these, like Monday through Thursday. Friday, I don't do any research. I just kind of go in and wing it. And it's honestly, to be 100% honest with you guys, it's really like a thought experiment, or like a thought, not test, but like a exercise, like a thought exercise for me, just to see how long I can go and what I can come up with, and just see where the show goes. But I do actually want to look up Elysium in the plot line. Before I look it up, from what I can remember, and then I'm probably going to jump into a different movie that I want to talk about relating to the climate change. But before I look it up, I'm going to like do my best to guess. I'm almost sure Elysium had Matt Damon in it. I'm almost sure it did. Matt Damon was in it, and there was someone was injured, or they had bad cancer or something. And like I said, in Elysium, that's the only way you can heal like unhealable diseases. They have like this pod. It scans you, says you have lung cancer. Stay here for 60 seconds. Okay, you're all good. Like, that's how easy it goes. So he was on Earth, someone he loved, or maybe I think he was on Elysium before, but now he was on Earth. Someone he loved like was stuck here or something, and he wanted to do something to get them up there with the elite, or there was like a competition to get there. I don't really remember, but all I do remember is, they can't just, like, that there has to be some form of plot. The plot was to get someone he loved, like, up there. Let's see. I'm almost sure Matt Damon was in it. Not The Meaning, the movie. Is that Matt? Hey, it's Matt Damon. Matt Damon, Jodie Foster. Alright, what else we got? So, I don't want to ruin it for anyone, so I'll just read like a slight tad of it. It says, in the year 2154, humanity is sharply divided between two classes of people. The ultra-rich live aboard a luxurious space station called Elysium, and the rest live a hard, scrabble existence in Earth's ruins. His life hanging in the balance, a man named Matt Damon, agrees to undertake a dangerous mission that could bring equality to the population, but Secretary Delacourt, Jodie Foster, vows to preserve the pampered lifestyle of Elysium citizens no matter the cost. So, in a slight sense, basically what I was saying, that's a great movie to watch and just get a picture of what the elites do when like times get rough. Because it's a self-preservation society. If they're like, if we have the option to leave, if we can, then we are. I mean, I always tell people, it doesn't matter if it's war. It doesn't matter where it comes. It doesn't matter what you're doing in life. Everything is perspective. Everything. From our perspective, it's like, yo, you're leaving us to die. You're messed up. You're a bad person. All these things, right? From their perspective, they have a family. They have themselves. Like, just like how we, maybe you don't, and I'm sorry if you don't. I'm not trying to put this on you, but you have a wife and kids, or that's the hope that you want. And regardless if it's not, you still want to preserve yourself first and foremost. So if someone gives you a ticket and says, here, you can live, and I'm giving you a ticket to get on Noah's Ark or something, but everyone else is going to die, you're not going to say, oh, well, this one ticket, let me see who else I can give this one ticket to. It's just not how humans are built. You're going to be like, Dad, that sucks that everybody else is going to die, but I'm going to save myself. And it's just how we are. We don't want to die. No one wants to just willingly die. So yeah, I mean, my mind is rumbling like with so much. But like I said, another movie I wanted to talk about, and this was like one of my favorite movies growing up. I wanted to talk about The Day After Tomorrow, and not too long. There's nothing like I can ramble about for the next hour on as far as The Day After Tomorrow, but just if you haven't seen The Day After Tomorrow, once again, not to ruin these movies because I want you guys to watch them if you can. The Day After Tomorrow is about, it has Jake Gyllenhaal in it as a young kid. It came out in 2004. I looked this up like the other day when all this was happening. It came out in 2004. It has Emily Rossum in it when she was like 17 or something. And who's that other guy? I know his name, but I can't think of it. He's a really famous like actor. It's something Wade or Spade or something. I'll look this one up too. I'll read their official description so that I don't have to try to make something up. Dennis Quaid. I was like, it's something like that. It says, after climatologist Jack Hall, Dennis Quaid is largely ignored by United Nations officials when presenting his environmental concerns. His research proves true when an enormous superstorm develops, setting off catastrophic national disasters throughout the world. Trying to get his son Sam, who is Jake Gyllenhaal, who is trapped in New York with his friend Laura, Emmy Rossum, and others, Jack and his crew must travel by foot from Philadelphia, braving the elements to get to Sam before it's too late. That's actually a good way. That's not how I would have described it. It's actually a good way to describe it. Yeah, just what they said. So there was basically, and this is not a spoiler in my opinion, because basically, if you see me relating it to what the situation we're in now, you can kind of guess what the superstorm was. Everything froze. It got so cold, and this is the thing I didn't understand when I was a kid. It got so froze that, like, the air froze, like wind froze. It got that cold in an instant. There was wind blowing this flag, and immediately, like just the temperatures of the earth, like, were just dropping so fast that the wind, like, the flag was flying and just paused mid blow. Mid flap, I guess, would be the thing. And the thing with that movie is it kind of relates to what we're going through right now, not just with Texas, but with everything. So, like they said, Dennis Quaid was someone who tried to speak about an event happening. And for us, it's not just one event, but we talk about climate change happening. And hey, if we don't get on top of this, this is going to happen. He said there's this event coming, and he gave them, like, it's going to happen. Actually, from what I remember, he said this is going to happen within the next couple of years. Like, we need to get on top of this. And then he ended up coming back and said, my calculations are wrong. This is going to happen in a couple of days. And then it did. There was someone in the space station that said, this doesn't look right. It was like one of the biggest hurricanes they ever, like, saw. And it was just so massive that it was so massive and just so cold and just everything combined. Where I'm getting with all this, because I'm repeating myself, where I'm getting with all this is just like the movie, someone tried to warn us and it was ignored. In real life, everyone, a lot of scientists, not even all, for whatever reason, we all need to come together and say that this is a real thing. It's clear this is a real thing, but most scientists are saying, like, look, this is a real thing. We're going to be in deep water, literally, pun intended. We're going to be in deep water if we keep warming the planet and the ice caps melt. If the ice caps melt, Florida will be underwater, Italy, probably Texas, California will definitely be underwater, most likely New York. It's just, unless you're on a mountain, mostly everyone will be underwater, honestly. Because I don't think people realize how much water there actually is out there, and the fact that they just by a couple inches, or maybe even a couple feet, they don't touch. Like, imagine if the Atlantic and the Pacific, like, rose, like, together and just swoops, like, had a smooth swoop over the United States. Japan is in the middle of the ocean, in the Pacific Ocean. If the Pacific Ocean rises a couple feet, Japan is underwater. There are billions of, like I don't know what you would even call them, metric gallons of water in these ice. It could be more, it could be trillions. I'm not too positive. But what I'm getting at is there's a lot of inches, lots of feet in this water, in the ice caps, that if it melts, it will raise the water that much. It's the transference of energy, or of, like if I go and pour this water bottle out, it has to go somewhere, it has to spread. If this was like when the snow melts, the water has to go somewhere. If there weren't sewer grates in the middle of the street, the water would just go everywhere. If there wasn't grass, because the grass also helps suck it up. If there wasn't grass and there wasn't sewer grates, the water would just melt and just go like this. If there was only concrete isn't it doesn't absorb water. That's why it cracks. But hey, what's up, Mo? Shout out to you. We're having this is a Free Think Friday, open conversation for anything. I'm just talking about the things that are going on in Texas right now, and just climate change in general. I was talking about the movie The Day After Tomorrow. And I was just talking about, it's crazy, man. Like, if the ice caps melt, if we keep warming the earth and we don't put forth some form of plan, it's just over, honestly. It's over. And that's not even taking into account some form of, like, event that we can't control. There's all these we always talk about asteroids or solar flares or us colliding with like a different planet or different anything out in space. Those are things we can't even control. The things that we can control on Earth, like the CO2 emissions that we don't even though we can control them, we don't. So I don't know. Like I said, it's weird. That's kind of a contradiction, because I was just talking about how it's a self-preservation society. I was talking about Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz, when his state started to melt or freeze and die, he left and tried to like preserve himself. So that made me talk about how, as humans, the only way we were able to evolve and get this far was through self-preservation, through choosing, all right, like I could let these animals live, but my kids got to eat, so I got to kill this buffalo or kill this gazelle or something. Or I know the lion needs to eat too. He wants to kill the gazelle. I got to kill the gazelle first. We as humans had to learn self-preservation to live this far. So that being said, it's kind of a contradiction that we are a self-preservation society or being, and we're the ones also destroying ourselves. You know what I mean? Like, we're also the ones destroying the planet and not preserving it, even though we're a self-preservation society. It's crazy. What's up, Preston? I was just like, this is a Free Think Friday. I don't know if you've ever been in one of these. Like I was just telling Mo, anything's open for conversation. Anyone could come to the stage. Free Think Fridays, I just go and ramble, honestly. So far I've talked about, I was talking about Ted Cruz and how he left. I was talking about the movie Elysium and how the elite, I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but in that movie, basically the elite have their own space station that they fly away to, and they just live up there, and everyone else, like, it becomes like a real classes society. All the poor and people, they scrap on Earth. I was talking about that, and then I was talking about the day after tomorrow and how it relates so much to what's happening right now. With the day after tomorrow, I don't know if you've seen that movie either, but in a 20-second or less, somebody was trying to warn about a super storm coming, just like how all these scientists have been trying to warn us, if we don't do something now, it's going to be too late. Basically, the guy's calculations were off, and the storm came sooner than they thought, and a lot of people got wiped out. And I think that's where we're headed, not immediately in a couple of days, but I think within at least a couple of decades. Like, we're not taking this as seriously as it needs to be. And like I was just telling Mo, these ice caps finna melt.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Duron. Good morning to everyone. I actually am pulling an all-nighter right now. I've been on Clubhouse for the past 17 hours, but it's funny you brought up these natural disaster events, because I was just thinking about how Texas actually has been getting wrecked by snow. Historically a very warm, sunny climate. They got a lot. Well, for us in the Northeast, it's not a lot of snowfall. 3 inches is nothing, but they got 3 inches of snowfall, and that completely crippled all of their infrastructure. And you have people, they're in turmoil over there, and it really just kind of begs the question of are leaders going to start taking things like climate change more seriously? I mean, it's clearly it's affecting one of the most conservative states, right? They as far as I know, they've never had snow like that in Texas before, and I don't know. I want to know what your take on it is, because I think it's interesting to kind of see where things will go, but it's also kind of scary to see at the same time this climate change happening in real time. I never thought, in my lifetime I would see snow in Texas.
No, I know. I did a whole episode on climate change, in general, a couple of days ago, but there are a lot of things I didn't get to expand on like I wanted to, so I can definitely keep going. I mostly talked about the things happening in Texas right now, but to answer your question with my take, it's definitely happening in real time. I don't think people understand the things that have happened in a 1 year's time. We saw California quite literally on fire. I just thought about this the other day, not to go into a whole different conversation that fast, but it was kind of like biblical. Like we always, people try to use the biblical stories of kind of like a parable. Um, and there's this one story, I couldn't think of the town, but long story short, there was this one town or whatever that God was like, just people were raping each other, and there was thieves, and there was all these negative things happening there. So God, quote unquote, whomever, was like, yeah, I'm tired of this. So the way that the story's written, they said fire rained down on the city, and whatever, that could be a parable of not messing up, not raping, not thieving, whatever. But what I was saying is, we look at those stories like, wow, they're an almighty being is the only one that can make it seem like fires raining from the sky. But we literally just saw that last year in California. There was, the sky was literally orange. It was like, you would, if you wrote that in a book right now and you said the sky was on fire and you just meant the sky was orange, people would be like, oh, in 100 years, 1,000 years, people would read that book and be like, oh, he was just trying to use an analogy or something. No, the sky was literally like, it looked like it was on fire. So to get back to the topic of conversation, I think the fact that it's happening so fast in real time, it's literally going from California and Australia being on fire to it's snowing in Texas and in Saudi Arabia. There was camels with snow on their back. They're in the desert. It was snowing in Mexico, which, Preston, you saw how hot and dry it is there when we went. The fact that it's snowing there is just crazy, and I don't know. I hope they take it seriously, but it's not looking that way. A lot of the conservative, not just Texans, but conservative politicians are actually blaming this on renewable energy or like the Green New Deal. And it's crazy because Texas is the state, like someone was saying, like, you guys actually had a football team named the Houston Oilers. Like, you guys are known as the biggest fossil fuel state of all of them. But I don't know if it wasn't the governor, maybe it was the governor, I think it was Governor Abbott. He came out and said something along the lines of like, this is what happens when you let like Democrats put renewable energy into your city, everything shuts down and stuff. And they're like, yo, the Texas is 80% fossil fuels, and none of the, actually, like the ERCOT or whatever the name of their energy, their Texas energy provider is, they came out and said none of the renewable energy shut down. It's literally only the fossil fuels. So what I'm getting at is, I don't think this will make them change, but I really hope it does. And not to get into a political debate and anything like that, but I don't understand how anyone could be conservative about this specific issue. There's nothing to be conservative about. It's literally just facts on the table. If you have lived in Texas your whole life, or Oklahoma, and you've never seen snow, that means your climate is changing. If you are literally freezing and your pipes are busting because it's negative temperatures there, which has never happened, this isn't some type of, oh, this is just a once in a lifetime event. There's no way this would happen. This is going to become the norm. There's going to be crazy earthquakes, crazy hurricanes, crazy tornadoes, snowstorms. It's snowing again in New Jersey. This is like the 5th or 6th time it snowed in the last 2 weeks. And maybe someone could say that's normal here, whatever. But it's crazy, man. The world is changing as we know it before our very eyes. And the sad thing is, because there's so much land, there's so much space, there's so many people, we don't even really, it can't really even affect us all at once, which allows people to go and just live their regular lives and act like it's not happening. And I don't know what state to use. You can call it Georgia or Florida or something, but there's probably someone in a high-rise building just doing their accounting work right now and just going la 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 la. They know it's happening, but they're like, "Dag, sucks to suck," and they just keep on going with their lives. But then people in Texas are literally all huddled in the middle of their homes with like fire pits, and they're just trying not to. They're trying to survive. It's crazy. It's crazy what could be literally happening as we're having this conversation. It blows my mind, man.
Yeah. Like, it's crazy because, like, I've been around on Clubhouse a lot recently, and I actually got to talk to some people who are in Texas, and they were telling me, like, for them it's kind of like surreal, especially like living on the internet age, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's kind of surreal to like have it seem like the world around them is in shambles, but at the same time, like, they go on the internet and like everywhere else, around in the States, it's like stuff's carrying on normal. Like, I mean, we're still getting a lot of snow in New Jersey, but it's like it's not really a showstopper. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because we're prepared. So we have the plows and stuff. It's crazy that they don't have any plows, bro.
Yeah, and like someone was telling me, like, people are like dying in their house from carbon monoxide because they're
oh shit.
They don't have heat. Like, it doesn't get cold down there, so. Some people thought it'd be a smart idea to warm up their houses with their cars, and that works. Basic physics and chemistry. That's easy carbon monoxide poisoning, and it's just kind of like when you see things like that, I feel like the Republican Party, right? Like the conservatives, like they have to feel like so disenfranchised at this point. So I really just wonder what's going to happen to like our system of politics as things kind of worsen, and maybe like people will start really like waking up and like kind of pulling the rug and seeing like the BS for what it really is. You know what I
mean? Yeah. Like I said, not even to make this to me, this is also factual. Not even a political debate. Like, I personally, and I guess it's because I'm progressive, you can't you never really understand someone's perspective until you are them. So me, as being a progressive person, I don't understand completely how you could see the world progressing around you and then you say, nah, it needs to stay the same. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, being a conservative in general, just as a from a what do they call it? Philosophical, I guess. From a philosophical standpoint, doesn't even make complete sense. Like, you're saying, hey, we think these things should be conserved and should stay the same, and we don't like much change, but the world literally every day is changing around us. There's no way that you can have it both ways. The world can't change, and then you say, nah, we gotta keep it the same. It has to. It doesn't even work that way. Like, regardless of what we wanted to do, conservative, progressive, doesn't matter. The climate is going to change, so we have to change our ways with it. Like, and let's just take the climate out of it, right? Let's just take climate out of it. There have been, since the 70s, and I've had to do extensive research on this, since the 70s, even like fuel companies have come out and said, we're going to run out of fuel in the next 100 years. We got to do something about this. And there's nothing being done. It's like, oh yeah, like we'll get to that when what do they say? We'll get to that bridge when we get there. Like, even if you want to say, you know what, I don't want to be a progressive with all the other things that the progressive parties do, whatever. Like, they want minimum wage to go up and whatever. You hate all that stuff. You hate all that stuff. But the climate is just it's a fact. It's changing, and even if you, like I said, take that out of it, the things that we run our cars and homes and airplanes and boats and everything else on around the entire world, that stuff is going to run out within probably now. I mean, if they were saying 100 years ago in the 70s, it's probably only got like a good 30 left, 35, because our intake of it has gone up. So it's probably went from 100 in the 70s, which means like 2070. It's probably more like 2050-ish, 2045-ish now. So regardless of if it's the climate or it's the loss of fossil fuels or whatever, we have to change the way that we're doing things right now. That's just a fact in my eyes. It's just a fact. And when I have these conversations, or if I'm looking on Twitter or wherever and I see conservatives saying, nah, like we're good, I'm like, I think your eyes are just closed. I don't know. What's your take on that, Preston?
it's like the whole thing with like the analogy of like the frog where it's like you put a frog in boiling water or in room temperature water, and at first it feels comfortable, but then you gradually boil the water, increase the temperature. The frog kind of adapts to its environment. It still is able to feel comfortable regardless of the increase in temperature, but at a certain point it becomes dangerous. It's boiling. The frog is dying.
Yeah.
And I think like that's what's making it so hard for people to wake up. It's like they're not getting like just like the frogs, they're not getting that shock where they were dumped into boiling water, but more like it's a gradual change and a gradual increase in the way our psychology works. We just have normalcy bias about everything in our world. Like when stuff happens, to make sense of anything that happens to you, good or bad, like your brain just categorizes things. And I think that's kind of what's happening here with like, a lot, like we said before, a lot of conservatives, like you would think they'd, wake up and start to see what the heck is really going on. But really it's just their own like implicit bias towards like how they see the system works, and a combination of just their normalcy bias where it's like, oh, like they're probably thinking like, yo, it snowed, this is a one-time thing, it's not going to happen again. Like, Earth rotates around the sun, which rotates around the universe. Like, it's not impossible for us to snow, and that's why it's snowing. But really, when you look at it, it's just not logical to be having snow in Texas. And as I think it's easier for other states outside looking in at these states where they're getting affected by this stuff, because we see it and we're like, yo, like, that's not normal, and we see it as a problem. But again, like the people who are actually in trouble, they're able to see there's a problem too, but I just doubt their focus on like what the actual cause of the problem is. I doubt they're going to really be able to like identify it and focus on a solution.
Yeah, I agree. Welcome, Osman. This is the Duron Morning Show. Like I said, welcome, man. Like I was saying, this is the Duron Morning Show. If you've never been here before, this is what I call a Free Think Friday. Normally, Monday through Thursday, I speak about different topics like finance, business, entrepreneurship. But on Free Think Fridays, to be very honest, I wing it just to give myself a little thought exercise and see where the show leads. And I like to give everybody the floor. Normally we have questions in the last 15 minutes, but on Fridays I like for everybody to take the floor. So what exactly do you want to talk about?
Oh, I was just nothing specific. I was just like saying hi, essentially.
Oh, what's up, man?
Yeah, how's it going?
Do you have?
We're talking about, I guess, global warming and stuff right now. I don't know if you know, but you definitely heard like in Texas it snowed, right? And
yeah.
Talking about how even though the evidence of like global warming is like it's kind of like painstakingly obvious and right in front of them, just how some people with like that conservative mindset, or these people who are just kind of like climate change deniers, they're still finding ways to rationalize what's going on without actually identifying what's really the problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've met people who don't want to openly say they're against climate change just because the overwhelming evidence of it happening and it destroying our planet, kind of like, I had this one friend tell me, like, yeah, climate change is real and all, but I don't think it's as bad as, what they're saying. I think they're, trying to scare us, this and that. And it turns out that he really didn't believe in climate change, but that was his way of just, justifying it. Like, yeah, it's interesting. Like, if people don't see it, they don't believe it. And it's hard convincing people like that.
Even when they do see it, it's like they're convinced what we're telling them is in front of them is not actually what they're seeing. And I think that's also like a big problem.
For me, go ahead, Preston.
Oh yeah, but I was just gonna say, I think it's like obviously like not just me, but like all of the United States. Like I think it's really interesting what's going on right now, and I'm actually very curious to see what how people are gonna react to it. Like people are literally dying in Texas right now because of the snow, which like for us, all of us being in the Northeast, like that's. Not that they're dying, but like just having snow is such a laughable and trivial thing. It's like, oh, like 3 inches of snow, like that's like that doesn't even stop people from going to work here, But there, it's completely devastated them, and you still just have these people denying it. It's just There's no words for it, really.
I mean, the reason we're fine with it is because we're heavily prepared for this. This is very frequent for us, and we get the roads cleared ASAP. But for them, the roads aren't cleared. They don't know what to do. They don't have the proper winter gear. They're just kind of in a very bad place. They don't and then you have old people walking around outside and slippery. And it's breaking their backs or something. It's just not good. Yeah, they're not prepared.
One thing, Preston, I didn't even put into consideration is what you said about them not having heat. You're right. If it's normally 102 degrees in Texas, why, and normally the low all year is 62 or something, why would I even waste putting heat in my house? You know what I mean? But because I would never even expect it to get lower than 40, 50 degrees or something. You know what I mean? I didn't even consider that they might not have heat in their home.
People are freezing, dude.
Well, no, I knew that the electric went off, so that's why that they, you know what I mean? They just don't have the heat. But if their electric is on, they might not even still have a heat hookup. You know what I mean? Because they don't need it. It would be like putting, if you had a heater in the summertime, next to your feet or something, one of those space heaters, someone would look at you like, what are you doing? It's always summertime there. So if someone said, yeah, I have heat here, they'd be like, but why though? I didn't even put that in consideration.
And I think, when I heard about people, dying from carbon monoxide poisoning because they're trying to heat their house with their cars, that kind of speaks to the type of people that are, I guess, living there, where that wouldn't even be of a concern to them, because again, they just don't believe in greenhouse gases and climate change and things like that.
And science.
But I don't know. Is it cool if I switch the topic?
Yeah, like I said, Free Think Friday, bro. Ask me anything.
So you know I'm passionate about this because I lost money on it, but GameStop. The whole GameStop.
Oh.
So they had a Senate hearing, and I just think it's so it's a screaming example of how painfully corrupt our government is when someone I'm not going to say his name because I don't know if you want me to curse on your show, but we'll call him DFV, the original Redditor who identified GameStop as being overshorted in 2019 and posting about it. Mm-hmm. They're kind of using him as the scapegoat or the martyr. And, they're basically, he's on the hook for market manipulation right now. They're really, trying to get him on that. And I just think it's insane, in the age of the internet and in our country where there's free speech, right? The fact that a regular person could go on the internet, take public information. He didn't have secrets or insider info. This is all stuff that you, me, Osmond, Mo, any of us could have went online and very easily found. He took public information, looked at it, and said, hey, I think it's a good idea to buy this stock because of this info that's available to me and everyone else. And he posted that on his social media site. And other people looked at it and said, hey, this guy posted some facts. I'm going to go check that. Oh, crap, these facts are right. I'm going to buy this stuff too. And, it caused these hedge funds to lose billions of dollars, and now they're screaming, oh, it's market manipulation. I just don't understand how you can play that card when it's clearly people, making decisions on their free will. And I just don't understand how they're even considering any possible legal recourse for him when someone was a Jim Cramer can get on the freaking news on NBC in front of 50 million people and be like, here's why I think this stock is bad, and say stuff that's just flat out not true. But that's okay. It just floors me.
That's a great point. I'm glad when I get to hear different perspectives. I definitely don't think there's any legal recourse, and if there is, this is going to be a case that is studied and remembered for a long time, because anything that comes after this, they'll be able to cite it and say, well, you're not allowed to do that. Remember DFV versus, I don't even know what, U.S. Senate. I don't even know who it's versus, but you're right when you say the things about the news. If CNN is allowed to have a finance section, and let's just say on average 3 million people watch CNN live daily, and then another 50 million hits online. So if 50 million plus people are allowed to say, oh, this is the CNN finance thing, I'm going to go invest in Apple because they told me to. They said, like Apple's up 2 tick points and blah blah blah, so I'm going to go invest in that. What's the difference? And that's like you said, public information. What's the difference in him saying here's public information? Like, I don't have a channel. I'm just posting to you redditors, and here you go. That's the same thing, except one is actually more publicized. Like, hey, this is a CNN Finance. We know what we're talking about. Like, there's actually no difference there. I hope that there's no legal recourse. I really, really do, because it'll do shockwaves through the internet, and they're going to have to figure out like how do we regulate. If we're saying, if there's legal recourse, we're clearly saying that you guys can't do this. So if we're saying you can't do this, what are we going to do in the future, and how are we going to prevent this? That's going to build shockwaves around the way that we live our lives.
And like, I just want to add to that. It's like, I think it's crazy because, like, again, these people, like, when they go on these news sites and tell people these stocks, like, people don't realize, like, how gray and loose of a term market manipulation is, right? Because quite literally, if you're someone famous with a platform, you can literally quote-unquote manipulate a stock or move a stock just by voicing your opinion on it. We've been seeing this very recently with Elon Musk.
Big Elon.
How powerful those tweets are. Yeah, wait, Osman, you wanted to add to that?
No, I was just saying Dogcoin. He's been promoting that.
Yeah.
And anything he says goes up. Did you see the thing about Signal, Preston?
Oh, yeah, I saw that. He wasn't even talking about the publicly traded company. He was talking about an app. And
exactly.
People misinformed went and bought more of this publicly traded company and like made the stock jump like 1,200% in a day. Like,
went from 70 cents to $70.
And it's just like, you know, I'm not saying this to knock Elon, but just the fact that it's like, you know, when someone with a platform decides to go and say something to their own benefit, like, Elon is smart. He knows what he's doing. He's putting Tesla's assets into Bitcoin, and he knows, like, if the more he tweets about Bitcoin, the more it's just going to go up. Like, at this point, there's like a linear relationship between Elon tweets and the Bitcoin price. So, like, it's just, and like, he knows this, and, you know, he's allowed to do that. No one's calling flag on the play for that. Like, these hedge funds and these short sellers can get on the news they can get on the news on these stations that have coverage to millions of people and say stuff which, by the way, isn't even always true or factual information. And, you know, again, millions of people seeing it, they're going to go and buy the stock or sell the stock, and it's going to move the price in their favor. And so I just think it's kind of disgusting that, like, they're even kind of looking to even use DFB as, like, a scapegoat in all of this.
Yeah,
go ahead, Osman.
I think it's interesting. The rules are different for the rich, and it's set up that way so that they stay rich, especially in our, like, justice system. And then so Elon Musk had this clip on YouTube that I, like, listened to recently. It was like this interview where he's just like, I don't respect the SEC. And the interviewer was like, wait, you don't mean to say that, right? Let me, like, you're going to get in trouble if you say that, kind of like, oh, you could correct yourself. He's like, nope, I don't respect them. They're, like, complete BS. Like, I was like, it's interesting. But, like, what can they do? He's, like, super powerful and rich, and, you know, they if you're rich, they tend to protect one another. You know, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Preston, how's the actual trial going? I've seen the pictures of DFV and, like, his long hair and stuff, but have you seen any clips or anything, like, or heard anything?
I saw a few snippets of the live stream, and I think the problem with our legal system is also how disconnected, you know, it is from technology, right? Because you have these people who are elderly, they're not really technologically advanced, they don't understand a lot of these newer concepts, but they've still been the same people in power for the past 40, 50, 60 years. And, like, when you watch some of it, you'll realize that, like, literally even, like, people like us, like, on this stage right now, just regular people who can read stuff on the internet, like, we have a better idea of what is going on with GameStop more than these people at these SEC and Senate hearings. Like, the SEC, like, you know, people look at them as, like, the warden of, like, market manipulation, but, like, that's something they actually prosecute so rarely. Even things like insider trading, because, like, there's, when you look at, like, legal precedents for our country, the biggest thing you need most of the time is like intent, and so that stuff is just so overwhelmingly hard to prove that the SEC rarely ever gets into this stuff. And in this case, I think it's a combination of like, you know, these bitch hedge funds doing things that are obviously illegal, but like, you know, the fine or legal recourse is less than the profit they stand to gain. So they're gonna do it anyway. And even if they do it, it's like if you're a big ass company, you can just delay these court hearings and proceedings for months and months and months and years, to the point where the SEC, the FBI, whoever is like, all right, like it's taking too long to get them. Let's just, you know, focus on something else. And yeah, it kind of makes everything come full circle for me for like how corrupt like our legal system and just like how ridiculous the financial system in general is.
We only have a couple minutes left. The show normally ends, just for you, Osman, 7:30 to 8:30. I do start work at 8:30, so I always ended around like 8:29, 8:30. But just
I'm at work too, so I was like, wait, I have to leave soon. But I was like, I don't want to be rude.
Yeah, no, you're not rude, bro. I completely get it. To touch on that, Preston, I don't even remember where I was going to go with that. What was I about to jump into?
Oh yeah, I mean, I just mentioned that like the legal system and financial system is ridiculously corrupt, you know.
I think where I was going to go with that, it was probably the legal system. Was it the legal? I don't know, but just to even like wrap it up, I mean, in general, we all know that it's definitely corrupt, and I just want to see how everything's going to be handled within like the next 10 years, because even though we don't feel like it's, like, I think I said this in an episode before, we don't feel like all of this is brand new, but this is all still very, very, very brand new. Like, think about something like the trains. Like, trains is a technology that we look at as like, oh, this is ancient or whatever, because it's maybe 200 years old now. And then you look at something like the television. Television came out in the 50s and the 60s, so it's looked at as like, oh, TVs, that's cool, whatever. The internet, as we know it today, because the internet came out in the 90s, but as we know it today, the huge boom really happened 12 years ago, maybe. Oh wait, like, this is all still brand new. We don't have any precedent. We don't know what's going on. Like the YouTube, Facebooks, and Instagrams, and the subreddits of the world and stuff. Like, all of this is really brand new territory where, like you said, Preston, all these ancient people, they're so confused. And I think that's what I'm so glad I remember, because that's where I was going to go with it. We don't have much time to have a whole conversation about it, but do you guys think that there should be a cap on like age, as far as politicians, as far as lawyers, as far as all those things? Because right now we live, or not even right now, in general, it's a kind of like a quote unquote known thing, like, oh, older people are more wise, so we should actually have older people in these things. 70, 80, they've seen a lot. But I think, because like you said, Preston, we're so all connected now, and I think knowledge is so readily available, I actually think there should be a cap. Like, if you're over 65, like, you can't be a judge or a politician or this, only not because you're not wise, but because we need new people in there. The world isn't the same as it was when you were in your prime in your 40s and 50s and you were being a judge, and now you're 80 and you're still deciding cases like it was 30 years ago. It's not 30 years ago. So I think there needs to be a limit, like you got to be 21 or something, or 18, whatever, and you got, like, there should be a minimum and a maximum. What's your quick takes on that, both you guys?
Jimmy, go first. Sorry.
And anybody, doesn't matter.
I think it's hard to implement because, like, without, like, we still need representation from, like, each, like, age group that, like, needs to be there, I think. But I do think that, like, as you get older, your mental, abilities kind of deteriorate, and you're not, like, you become more disconnected with the rest of society and what they're going through and their struggles, because, like, you're just stuck in your own way, you know? Like, you've been thinking about, like, you're thinking for such a long time, it's just hard to, you know, accept the ideas. And then, yeah, I think there should be an age cap. Yeah, it's just hard to implement in a way that's not ageist or something like that.
You're right about that.
I think we need younger people in that, and representing us. I just don't think we have it. I think it's been so like skewed or in the direction of the older generation, where they're like crafting our policies and politics, and it's really frustrating because it doesn't really represent what we as society want right now or need. But yeah,
definitely. I think what also doesn't help is like I don't know. I know there's age restrictions for the presidency, but are there age restrictions for other like I guess like official seats, so to speak?
There's only a minimum. Like, there's no max. There's only a minimum, which I think is the problem.
Like, what are some of the minimums, like, besides the presidency?
Minimum for presidency is 35. Minimum for most other seats is about 25.
Yeah. I think, that could definitely be lowered, or maybe, and it might be kind of like Osmond said, ages, but maybe even have it like tiered based on age, because even that would still give you a lot more like perspective and insight on like what's really going on, right? Because young people are the majority of the population. So I think, our company definitely, to get into with what's really going on with technology, needs to have like younger, more connected leaders. And that's my take.
All right, I appreciate both you guys coming to the stage, everybody that was here. We do this Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 8:30. Normally, like I said, there are specific topics, but on Free Think Fridays, I like to just give it to everybody and just go. I appreciate you guys. You guys can all follow me on all social media platforms at The Duron Coles, and you can rewatch the videos on youtube.com at The Duron Coles. All right, I will see you guys on Monday at 7:30 a.m. Have a great weekend. Peace.
Catch you later.